I must get this off my chest, even though I honestly never imagined I'd be discussing it. I think I could have handled things differently in retrospect, but to be honest, I'm still not sure if I was entirely mistaken for the past 3 years. I, Avery, 28, have been married to Marcus, 37. We first connected when I began working in marketing for his IT startup. Yes, I am aware of how that sounds, but things weren't that way. I was not a mere intern, I was a professional with a degree. We merely happened to collaborate on a few projects together. He wasn't even my immediate supervisor. Marcus has the trait of being extremely intelligent, sometimes to the point of being obnoxious. He started his business from the ground up, and he is essentially worshipped by everyone there. I really liked that about him when we first started dating. It made me feel unique. He picked me out of all the women that threw themselves at him. However, things have changed recently. At home, he has been fixated on being respected and acknowledged. For example, I was telling him about my fantastic promotion the other day. Instead of congratulating me on taking over the entire digital marketing department, he became quite upset that I no longer recognize his accomplishments. What accomplishments? I mean, yes, the business is doing well, but it has been doing so for years. He didn't really create anything new. In reality, I'm the one advancing in the company, navigating office politics and establishing my reputation. However, it seems that each time he makes a business choice, I have to give him a huge celebration. Please understand that I adore Marcus. In contrast to my ex-partners, he is dependable, stable, and truly has his life together. However, there are moments when I think he's still operating on the outdated notion that a wife should always be there to support her husband. Like, hello, I have my own career to think about, and it's 2025. Marcus was discussing a new project at work with our friends Kai and Matt over dinner last week. I may have given a little eye roll. I made a joke about how he practices these speeches in the mirror, which he definitely does, because he always tries to appear really impressive at dinner parties. Marcus became quite silent while everyone else laughed. He claimed that I undercut him in front of our friends later that evening. Do you think that's possible? I simply wanted to add some interest to the conversation. He went on and on about how I've changed since we got married, and that I no longer take him seriously. Perhaps I've changed. I had just graduated from college when we first met, and everything he accomplished seemed incredible. I now perceive him as a normal guy who just so happened to strike it lucky with his startup. He's successful, but he's not quite Elon Musk, don't get me wrong. The strange thing is that he has been acting differently ever since that evening. He is more reserved and aloof. He used to fill me in on every detail of his day, but these days he only responds with brief statements and spends more time at his home office. He didn't this morning even give me a farewell kiss before heading off to work, something he has done every day since we were married. I feel compelled to apologize. But for what reason? For having my own thoughts and being truthful. If a little taunting is too much for his ego, it's not my fault. Furthermore, he should be the one to apologize for making me feel bad about my accomplishment. I tried to discuss it with him last night, but all he said was that he wanted time to reflect. Even so, what does that mean? Men claim to want strong, independent women, but they are unable to cope with us once we start acting independently. I'm beginning to suspect that he's concealing something. I observed him having lunch with a woman I've never seen before yesterday, and he's been taking more private calls lately. I questioned him about it, and he said it had to do with work, but he wouldn't elaborate. That isn't typical of him. There's certainly something wrong, and I'm starting to worry. He would probably simply spin it around and make it about his valuable regard once more, but I wouldn't tell him that. However, I can't get rid of the feeling that something bad is going to happen. Remember how I mentioned that a shift was imminent? Yes, I didn't realize how much. Yesterday began as any other day would. Marcus texted me to ask to have lunch with me as I was preparing for a huge presentation. We hadn't had lunch together in weeks, so that was actually sort of sweet. He insisted on meeting at his house, even though I recommended that new Thai restaurant downtown. In any case, I assumed he was attempting to express regret for his recent mood swings. Marcus had this strange expression on his face as he sat at our kitchen table when I arrived home, he and a pile of papers, no food in sight. I felt right away that something was wrong, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. It turns out that the woman I saw him with was a business consultant, not simply a casual coworker. Marcus is leaving his position as CEO of his business and just leaving behind all he has worked so hard to create. He stated that as he determines what he truly wants to do with his life, he is moving into an advisory position. I chuckled. In fact, I burst out laughing. Was this a prank of some sort? He's going to discard everything because I didn't give him enough pats on the back, even though the business is performing better than ever? I encouraged him to get over whatever midlife crisis he was having since he was acting ridiculously. He said, "This is exactly why I'm doing this," and then he fell into that eerie silence. "Avery, you don't respect me. It's been a while since you did. You reject every choice I make, every accomplishment I make, and every worry I have. I'm tired of feeling this way in my own marriage, and you make fun of me." I attempted to clarify that this was crazy and that he was exaggerating. His achievement served as the foundation for our home, way of life, and future goals. Since his feelings were wounded, he is unable to just alter things. He refused to listen, though. He simply sat there, utterly composed, and informed me that he had already talked about the board accepted his transition plan after we spoke about it. How about our plans? What about the vacation home we planned to purchase? I questioned him. We were going to start a family. I don't want to bring children into a marriage without mutual respect, he remarked, just shaking his head. That's when I burst into ugly tears. I informed him that this wasn't fair and that he was punishing me for having my own thoughts and for being successful. He claimed that my achievement was unrelated to this. He claims that instead of viewing him as a collaborator, I began to view him as competition. He claimed that whenever he discloses something of which he is proud, I always manage to either outdo him or undermine it. Do you recall last month, when I finally closed the Anderson deal, he inquired, "Not even your eyes left your phone. However, I made sure you felt special by hiring a photographer, taking you out to celebrate, and posting about your new client on social media." In retrospect, he wasn't entirely incorrect. But I still wanted to disagree. I may have stopped celebrating the CEO's victories because I've been so preoccupied with proving to everyone that I'm more than simply his wife. However, that's not the same as treating him disrespectfully, is it? He's already moved into the guest room, but he's giving me time to think. At 5 in the morning this morning, I discovered him preparing coffee in preparation for a meeting on his transition. He was happier and more at ease than I had seen him in months. I'm sitting here in the interim, wondering how everything came to an abrupt end. The worst thing. Madison paused before acknowledging that perhaps Marcus had a point when I contacted her to rant. She mentioned other occasions when I had reportedly written off incidents I couldn't even recall. She said no one was laughing with me at that dinner party. They were just uncomfortable. Was I truly so oblivious? I'm in this strange limbo right now. It feels more significant than my husband essentially tearing apart his life because I made fun of him. I feel as though my assumptions about our marriage were incorrect. What's the most absurd aspect? He might be correct, a little voice in my head keeps repeating. 2 weeks have passed after Marcus's shocking revelation and everything still seems unreal. Have you ever watched a movie about your life and felt as though a stranger had been cast in place of the main character? Now, whenever I look at my hubby, I feel that way. His strategy change was announced by the corporation yesterday. It sounded so professional and well-planned in the official press release. When I finally realized that he was genuinely doing this, reading it was like receiving a kick to the stomach. He's leaving everything behind and I helped make it happen. The worst thing, I keep getting these pitying stares from people at work who ask me how I'm doing. They most likely believe Marcus is experiencing a breakdown. I want to yell that I'm the one breaking down, not him. Instead, I just reply, "We're both excited about his new," with a smile because I couldn't sleep last night. I found myself looking through our old pictures. This one was taken just after our marriage, 3 years ago. Marcus had just completed this enormous transaction. He was so excited that day that he could not sit still throughout supper. As I can truly recall now, I simply kept checking my business emails while he talked about how it would completely transform the organization. I didn't even give him a glance. However, I also discovered more pictures of him at my award shows and product launches, where he is usually standing just behind me, grinning and beaming. Even a video from my promotion celebration shows him making a heartfelt speech about my achievements. And you can see me rolling my eyes in the background because I felt he was going too far. I tried discussing it with my mother. Honey, she added, men need respect like women need love. It sounded like something out of a 1950s marital textbook, and I nearly hung up on her later on. Though, I couldn't get it out of my head. How recently have I shown Marcus love, respect, or anything other than toleration? When the announcement was made public, the company's stock suffered. Reassuring investors and outlining his succession plan, Marcus spent hours on the phone. In his office, I heard him talking more assuredly and decisively than he has in months. I took him some coffee after he was done, as I always did when we first got married. He offered me the heartbreaking little smile after looking astonished. The only thing that came out of my attempt to initiate a conversation and perhaps apologize was, "The board must be furious." I stood there looking foolish as he simply shrugged and stated, "Some things are more important than stock prices." Before returning to his laptop, Marcus stated he needs to work things out on his own first, but Madison offered couples therapy. He has started going to the gym at strange hours and reading these self-help books. I occasionally hear him laughing and chatting with someone on the phone, most likely that consultant woman. I'm the one who drove him away, therefore. I detest how envious it makes me feel. The realization that I had someone who supported every crazy dream I had, who looked at me like I hung the moon, who celebrated every little victory in my life, and who I treated like he was nothing special is what keeps me up at night, not even the change in our lifestyle or what other people might think. I forgot to be a wife at all because I was so focused on proving that I was more than simply the CEO's wife. I discovered a notebook in his home office yesterday. I couldn't resist seeing. Even though I know I shouldn't have, it was packed with plans, life plans, not business plans. Normal things that normal people desire to do include volunteering at the youth center, learning to paint, and visiting Japan. On one page, he had scrawled, "Find myself again." I realized then that this is about more than just me. Perhaps it was never. I have no idea what the future holds for us, unexpectedly. I agree with Marcus when he says he needs more time. I've also begun going to therapy. According to my therapist, having a positive relationship with yourself is a must for developing a positive relationship with others. Perhaps those self-help books have a point. Even though it seems like something from a corny novel, I passed his new home yesterday. He was showing 3 teenagers how to plant tomatoes in his garden. I felt proud of him, which is something I haven't done in a long time, but I didn't stop. Not because he was wealthy, famous, or successful, but rather because he had the guts to put happiness before all else. I formerly believed that respect entailed appreciating someone's accomplishments. I'm now discovering that it's important to respect not only what they do but also who they are. I lost the greatest thing in my life when Marcus stated he wanted respect, and I laughed, perhaps. However, we both needed to lose each other in order to rediscover who we were.